Welcome back to Online Drawing 3. Today's lesson is lesson number 4, and it's a color study in oil pastel on Bristol board. I'm going to be working with a secondary color palette. The colors are purple, green, and orange, not to be confused with the primary colored palette, which is yellow, blue, and red. The nice thing about these palettes is that they create harmonious color relationships. And you sort of have a support network of not just the colors, but also the complements that you work into the colors in order to create the value. We're going to be working with pencil first and then oil pastel. I recommend only using 3 objects. But ideally, a nice color arrangement. This might include analogous colors, colors that are close to each other on the color palette, like orange, red, and yellow, or blue, green, and purple, or a primary or secondary palette. I'm going to start just laying things in with my horizon line and then overlapping the elements, starting with the largest one first. Right, now I'm going to add highlights and shadows. So when I start adding my green, it's going to be over a white because the green is darker than my object. And so I'm going to have to fill in enough white to fill in for a pastel. On this side, it will be in shadow. So I put the pastel down, the white down first, and then I add the green and its complement, which is red. When I'm doing my tomato, I can split it a little bit between orange, red, and yellow to make it a more interesting color. I'm going to make it as bright as I see it and contrast it with the green stem. Because this is the warmest thing in the composition, this is purple, this is green, this is orangey red, it's going to be the focal point. And so I'm not mixing any white in, and I'm making the colors a little bit more intense. Even though there's a shadow portion, it still should come forward. And now my purple, it's a little redder than traditional purple. So I'll use I'll use blue and the greenish blue to make it shadowy, and then this reddish purple and red. Now the opposite of purple is yellow, and we have a dark yellow in our set called yellow ochre that looks like this. So if you want to make it darker, you can add that. And then add that, and then add the blue again. So adding highlights first with white, and then following up with a light amount of the purple color is what I'm going to do now for the top of the vase. I'm adding the lip, which catches the light on one side and is in shadow on the other. And sometimes if you can't get dark any other way, you add a little black and mix it with your main color. I'm using this purple as a blending stump. It's a little bit darker and cooler than the red purple I've been using earlier. But you will find after a while you can't add any more. It just moves around on the page. Sometimes scraping allows you to reintroduce a color. I'm going to do some shadows and some background. Because I'm using white, I have to kind of clean my tool before I put it down and scrape my paper. My table is catching the light, not my background. I start with a little bit of blue before putting down any black, because I want this to be a cool shadow. Before adding the black. Remember that the base always has a little bit of dark. And then you blend it with white. Again, it has to be pale enough that it's just the absence of light. And then a slightly darker and complementary background for your tall item. In my case, I'm using yellow ochre, just a kind of a darker yellow. I darken it, make it a little bit duller with the purple. This is my straight purple, not my red purple. But I blend it with white. So I want this to be straight. By using a complementary color background, it pushes the purple item forward. I can also pick up that color and use it as a shadow in any area that still needs shadow. So again, yellow ochre makes a great shadow on purple. So possibly here, if it'll take any more, you add the yellow ochre. And a little bit of the blue. And then a little bit of the red. All right, so it's time for you guys to get started. You may want to keep a paper towel nearby to wipe your hands. And don't forget, if you have a penny or other kind of coin, that would be useful too, to scrape away areas where it gets too heavy and the oil pastel doesn't allow you to add another layer on top of it. All right, have fun.